Can you believe that one of the biggest computer frauds in history happened way back in 1973, long before the internet as we know it even existed? This is the story of a $2 billion deception that completely blindsided Wall Street and served as a chilling wake-up call for the modern financial world. Imagine a time without cybersecurity experts, without antivirus software, without even a basic understanding of what a computer could truly do. The year is 1973. Mainframe computers are the size of a room. They hum with mysterious power. And to the average person, they are infallible black boxes that spit out pure, unadulterated truth. On Wall Street, this faith in technology was absolute. The financial giants of the era were just beginning to embrace computerization to manage their increasingly complex operations. They saw these machines as a path to efficiency, a way to process millions of transactions with perfect accuracy. This blind trust, this almost religious belief in the machine, is exactly what a clever group of criminals decided to exploit. The company at the center of this storm was Equity Funding Corporation of America. On the surface, it was a dazzling success story. It was a fast-growing insurance and investment firm, a darling of Wall Street. Its stock price was soaring, and investors were lining up to get a piece of the action. The company's profits looked incredible year after year. It seemed like a money-making machine that couldn't be stopped. But behind the curtain, a massive fraud was unfolding, and the computer was its primary tool. So how did they pull it off? It was deceptively simple, yet brilliant in its execution. Equity Funding's primary business was selling life insurance policies. A common practice in the insurance industry is something called reinsurance. This is when an insurance company sells some of its policies to another, larger insurance company to spread out the risk. The reinsurer pays a lump sum for the future premium payments. Equity Funding took this legitimate practice and twisted it into a criminal enterprise. The core of the fraud was breathtakingly audacious. They started inventing fake insurance policies, tens of thousands of them. Using their state-of-the-art IBM computer system, they created fictional policyholders out of thin air. These weren't real people. They were just lines of code, digital ghosts in the machine. They assigned them names, addresses, and policy details. Then, they sold these completely fabricated policies to the reinsurers for hard cash. The reinsurers, trusting the computer printouts from Equity Funding, believed they were buying legitimate assets. They had no reason to doubt the reams of data that proved these policies existed. After all, the computer said so. This created a massive, immediate cash flow for Equity Funding, which they used to inflate their earnings reports and boost their stock price. But there was a problem. A life insurance policy requires ongoing premium payments. And eventually, the fictional policyholders would have to, well, die, so the company could collect the death benefits to pay back the reinsurers. This is where the fraud entered its most macabre and complicated phase. The conspirators had to keep their digital ghosts alive. They programmed the computer to generate fake premium payments for the fake policies. It was a Ponzi-like scheme, using money from selling new fake policies to pay the premiums on the old fake ones. But the real challenge was managing the deaths. They couldn't have all their fake policyholders dying at once. That would look suspicious. So, they had to program the computer to randomly kill off a statistically appropriate number of fake clients each year. The machine would select a few digital ghosts, declare them deceased, and generate the necessary paperwork to file a claim. The money from these claims would then be used to pay off the reinsurers and keep the whole cycle going. It was a massive, self-sustaining financial illusion, all running inside the circuits of a computer that Wall Street trusted implicitly. For years, this scheme ran like a well-oiled machine. The scale was staggering. By the time it was uncovered, the company had fabricated over 60,000 fake insurance policies, with a face value of more than $2 billion. In today's money, that's equivalent to over $13 billion. The fraud was so successful because no one thought to question the computer. In the early 70s, the idea of auditing a computer program itself was almost unheard of. Auditors would check the paper trail, the printouts, the summary reports, all of which were being expertly faked by the machine. The computer was seen as an objective and impartial calculator, not a tool that could be programmed to lie. The conspirators were essentially hiding their crimes in plain sight, using the complexity and mystique of technology as their shield. They created a separate set of books, a fake reality that existed only within the company's data files, which the computer would present to auditors. So how did this house of cards finally collapse? It wasn't a brilliant auditor or a Wall Street analyst who cracked the code. It was a disgruntled former employee. In early 1973, a man named Ronald Sechrist, who had been fired from equity funding, decided to blow the whistle. He went to Raymond Dirks, a prominent insurance industry analyst, and laid out the whole unbelievable story. At first, Dirks was skeptical. The idea of creating tens of thousands of fake people inside a computer sounded like something out of a science fiction novel. But as Sechrist provided more details, Dirks began to investigate. He started talking to other employees and former employees, and slowly, the pieces started to fit together. He discovered a culture of fear and secrecy within the company. He learned about the special programming department, known internally as the toy department, where the fake data was created. The more he dug, the more he realized the fraud was real and its scale was astronomical. Dirks began advising his clients to sell their equity funding stock. As they started dumping shares, the stock price plummeted. This sudden drop triggered alarm bells at the New York Stock Exchange, which halted trading. Soon, regulatory bodies like the Securities and Exchange Commission and state insurance departments swarmed in. The investigators were initially baffled. The company's paper records, generated by the computer, all looked perfectly legitimate. It was only when they brought in computer experts to perform one of the first ever electronic audits that the truth was revealed. They dug deep into the source code and the master data files. And there they found them, the digital ghosts. They uncovered the secret code, the routines designed to create fake policies, fake payments, and even fake deaths. They found evidence of data being systematically altered and fabricated. The machine that had been the perfect tool for the crime also became the perfect witness, preserving a flawless digital record of the entire conspiracy. The fallout was immediate and catastrophic. Equity Funding Corporation of America collapsed into bankruptcy. Over 20 senior executives and employees, including the CEO, went to prison. Thousands of investors lost everything. The scandal sent shockwaves through the financial industry and the nascent computer world. It was a brutal lesson in the dangers of placing blind faith in technology. The equity funding case forced a revolution in accounting and auditing. For the first time, people realized that you couldn't just trust the printout. You had to audit the computer itself. It led to the development of new techniques for computer auditing and data verification. It gave birth to the field we now know as IT auditing and played a foundational role in the development of modern cybersecurity. This story from 1973 is more than just a historical curiosity. It's a timeless parable about technology, trust, and human greed. It reminds us that any powerful tool, from the earliest mainframe to today's artificial intelligence, can be used for both good and ill. It proved that the biggest vulnerability in any system isn't in the code or the hardware, but in our own assumptions and our willingness to trust what we don't fully understand. The ghosts in the machine at Equity Funding were a warning, an early signal from the dawn of the digital age that continues to echo in our hyper-connected world today. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the hidden stories that shaped our world. See you next time.